Okay, yeah, just come forward in your chair a little bit more for me, though, sorry.
Where do you want me looking?
You look at me and ignore the camera.
Okay.
Alright, and I'm Rolly.
First, just say and spell your first and last name.
Okay, Rolly Ashdown, ROLLYASHDOWN.
Why are you running for the nomination?
Well, I've been involved with the Conservative Party for a little bit of time. I was with Kevin Sorensen's board before. His is obviously Crowfoot, so the south side of Crowfoot and a little piece of the east side of McLeod and a piece of the west side of Medicine Hat came into this riding. When it was formed in November of last year, I became the president of it. So obviously I have an interest in it. I enjoy politics. I'm in municipal politics right now, so I think we need to tie the federal politics together with municipal a little bit more than has been in the past, so I'm looking at maybe bridging that gap.
How's that? Has there been some sort of disconnect between them?
You know, I wouldn't say necessarily it's a disconnect, but there's never been a connection. You know, municipal politics is actually run as a corporate structure under the legislation of the province, so it hasn't really been recognized formally by the federal government. So when I go to things like the FCM conventions, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, I notice that there's a desire from the federal side of things to connect more with the municipal side. So I hope to be able to provide that in some way. And also, I love the area. It's a great area, and I'm accustomed to the way the things that are happening in rural, and we have some urbans. And Rockview County also is 93% rural still, but where we are right now is a hamlet, but it's 5,000 people, so it gives you a little bit of an idea that rural and urban can have a lot better mix than it has, and I'm hoping that federal and municipal can have a pretty good mix as well, so that's what I'm looking at doing.
Okay. So guys, you're sort of going back and forth a little bit, just trying to keep steady.
Don't
That's
do
perfect.
that.
Yeah. Is your sense that out here, really, it's the race for the nomination that's the fight? Because generally this is pretty staunch conservative country, and this is the election almost more than when the writs drop federally?
You know, you're right. This is the election, really. This area is 80% conservative. And when Kevin Sorensen ran here last time, I think he set a record. I think it was 81% actually. And so when you consider that, since there is no MP in the new area, whoever gets elected as the candidate will most likely become the MP in the area. Now, you know, Justin Trudeau and his group may have something different to say about that. They might take a shot at it, but all in all, I think the whole idea of less government and lower taxes and letting people you know, survive and do well on their own is something that's embraced in this area. So I think it'll remain being a conservative area.
Do the fights for the nomination become a little I shouldn't say dirty, I don't mean that, but just more aggressive, more intense in a riding like this? You know, we saw it recently south of Calgary too, in Okotoks River too, where since this is really the fight, because once you get it, you're probably going to get in. Are the fights a little less amiable than they might be in other parts of the country, where for the better of the party, you sort of, you know, there'll be maybe more cooperation, whereas here it's going to go conservative almost certainly. So whoever, that makes it a bit more competitive.
Well, I mean, the fight for the candidacy is real. Whoever gets it is going to be an MP. Where it gets interesting, and probably one of the reasons that you're here talking to me at all, is because there's a fellow named Rob Anders that has an interest. Now, that's something that I haven't heard anybody really embracing, the idea that somebody who's been an MP for 17 years in the city of Calgary, you know, with whatever kind of record he might have, but they're not necessarily embracing that this is just an area to go to grab a seat. This is an area where people really want to have good representation. So, I mean, myself and, you know, the mayor of Brooks, it was Martin Shields is interested, another fellow, Gerard Lucician, is interested, and also Rob Anders. So there's 4 people in it. It hasn't got real nasty, and I don't think it's going to. You know, I'm hoping that people see me as the best candidate, but if they don't, I mean, I'll accept whoever they pick.
Is that frustrating when someone parachutes in like Anders does?
Well, and I wouldn't call it necessarily parachuting in, but rather that somebody's trying to find a home. And, you know, since Rob, you know, got beat by Ron Leipert in the last one, you know, I'm sure it sounds like he wants to remain as an MP, so I don't blame him. I mean, it's a great area to go to. It's a nice area with good people. It's very rural. You know, there's some urban mix in it, but whether he fits or not, I guess is something that we're going to find out when the vote is cast.
Do you find, I know with yourself and especially with the mayor of Brooks, I mean, you've got political experience out here anyway. I don't know a lot about Gerard, but I know he lives out here as well. So in that sense, so do you sort of feel like there's a certain merit to having spent time in a riding and living there? Because Rob has said he's in the process of moving out to Chestermere, I suppose, but versus spending a decade here, I guess in that sense, do you sort of feel someone should be intimately familiar with the riding they're going to run in?
You know, I think it's a good idea. I think whenever you have a new riding, you should consider firstly, you know, the talent that you have in that riding, and this one is ripe with talent. Martin Shields is, I think, he's on his 4th term as mayor of Brooks, and myself, when I was elected at Rocky View County, I came in as reeve of the county. So, I mean, obviously, I became very familiar with how to run meetings and committee meetings. I think a lot of work at the House of Commons isn't necessarily in the House of Commons. It's in the committee settings and things like that. So I'm extremely familiar with that. So obviously, you know, to me, that's appropriate. Somebody from here already has the experience. That's probably the person you should put there. I'd like to think that I'm the best one at that.
Anything else you want to add on?
Not really. I think you should probably vote for Rolly Ashdown, but I guess you're probably not a member. So, but if you could move here, get a membership 21 days ago, then you would have been able to do that.
Got it. Good. Thanks.
Thanks. How's that?
Good. It's really good. We'll get some shots of you at the computer, maybe.
Back off.
Okay, you want some shots of what?
Yeah, probably. I'll let Wes direct you. Probably have you at the computer anyway, doing something campaign. Or is there any calls you can make? Campaign calls? Any of your volunteers? You want to call your wife and fill her in on what you got going on, or something like that?
What do you mean? You want to record that?
Yeah, we do background audio, so we'll sort of have you at work, right, at your desk.
Oh.
So, you'd even fake a phone call to someone. What do you think, Wes? Any thoughts?
Yeah, sure.
Is a phone call best? Probably, hey. Yeah. Is there someone?
Why don't we make a real phone call? We'll try and keep it real. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, good. Do you still want this rolling, Rolly, this camera, or should I stop it?
Yeah, you can stop it. That's okay.